All right, everybody, welcome to Sinister CyberCon Day 2. Thank you, everyone who came out yesterday to be part of Day 1. It was a wild ride, and we had a lot of unexpected delays and stuff that we had happen, but we are very much appreciative to those of you who stayed with us all day yesterday. Today, we have another awesome slate of conversations for you guys. Jimmy and Brian here to say hello. We'll be back at the end with the entire crew as well. But we are definitely back. And Brian, we have a fun day ahead of us.
Oh my God, we have an awesome day, and kicking it off with two of my favorite human beings on this planet. From behind the mask, we have Nathan and Angela. And, I am biased. I'm not gonna lie, fucking biased, but two awesome individuals, and I know when these two get together, whether it's virtual or in person, it's going to be a fun time. But before we get into that, I want to say real quick, Jimmy, you're absolutely right. Yesterday, every panel was crazy. It was busy. It was difficult at times, but that's what you get when you do something that's live, not pre-recorded.
Definitely.
And we learned something from that factor, though, with the whole Felisa Rose situation, which, by the way, she wasn't able to do her panel. A lot of people tried. She tried to do it. She has confirmed with me she is going to do a special one-off for us later, whether it's with the Horrific Network or broadcasted through Sinister. No matter what, we will get a Q&A from her. But because of that process, we learned something, and we decided to do something a little bit different with CJ. So why don't you tell them about that real quick?
So yeah, we put out a call for questions for CJ Graham a couple of days ago, and we wanted to make sure that we got through as many questions for him as possible. That in turn, after the complications with Felicia Rose last night, turned into a blessing, because we were able to ask him as many of your questions as we could fit in, pre-recorded that interview, because they are in the same location in Nevada right now. So to avoid any kind of interruption with CJ, we just pre-recorded that panel that is still going to air at the 5 o'clock time slot as planned. So stay tuned for that. But right now, Brian, I think it's time we bring in our two guests that are here live, ready and excited to talk to all you guys who are watching with us. So
absolutely, Brian, man. Absolutely. Let's kick it off. I'm going to head out because I want to watch this and I'm on the road. So definitely. Jimmy, kick some ass. You guys have a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody. It's all up to you guys. Let's do it.
Brian really kind of he took my steam away from this introduction I was going to give these two, because every once in a while you come across a film, especially a horror film, that is captivating with the concept, and then the old adage of like, don't meet your heroes, or don't meet people that you really admire their work because of said movie. It's going to tarnish their reputation. Then I met my heroes, these people, the cast of this movie, Leslie Vernon, and they didn't tarnish their reputation. As Brian said, I would wager that the series of conversations that these two have had at Sinister Creature Con are the coolest if you go back and listen to all of them. So let me welcome Leslie Vernon himself, Nathan Baesel. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, great to join you, Jimmy.
And of course, Taylor, the great Miss Angela Goethals. How are you doing?
Hi, my loves.
So again, always awesome to have Leslie Vernon and Taylor in one spot, because the movie still absolutely holds up to this day, and the story in itself is so original, and the fact that you, Nathan, you get your fascination of being the killer from like Freddy and Mike and Jason and all those guys, and you aspire to be the next great one. And then Taylor comes in with a mockumentary. Well, it is a mockumentary. Your character is a documentary to follow you. David really created a doozy, and then he found you guys that really put it all together. It looks like we're having a little bit of technical issues. Angela's frozen there. But now she's not. Okay.
Sure.
But you guys...
Was I frozen like this?
I can hear
You were
you.
frozen in the dark. I couldn't even see you.
Oh,
You're still in the dark.
I'm still in the dark.
We can see her. You cannot see her, Nathan. The benefit of live TV, but
oh, so you can see her.
I
like to see that face.
Let me see if we put her.
Samesies.
Angela, I don't know. Do you want to try maybe to rejoin?
Yes, I will.
Okay. But Nathan, with that story coming to shape that it was, with this Leslie Vernon looking up to these guys, I mean, we've had the pleasure of having you at Sinister Creature in person many of times. I encourage everyone to go back and listen to these interviews that we have done. And the reason why I'm skipping over the you finding the role process, because the last time that I watched it, the thing that I found really interesting was to really kind of pay attention to Leslie and Taylor's character arc. Because you guys, she meets you, she's hesitant. It's almost like she gets Florence Nightingale for you. You guys kind of have like this unspoken connection for a while. And then, of course, shit hits the fan towards the end of the movie. But was that fun to play off of each other, where you're not entirely sure if Leslie is using her completely or if she is maybe swaying him towards not going through with everything?
Well, throughout the process, it felt like every time, there she is. Now I can see the face. Okay.
We were talking about you guys' character arcs, Angela, throughout the whole film.
And and throughout, it always felt like whenever I was making a choice that was a truthful choice, something that was grounded in some kind of truth, that was always the better choice to go with. It was always the more interesting choice. It was always the more provocative choice. In this case, and it was in the script too, but it wasn't until the casting process and meeting Angela that I realized that there was a truth that could really be explored in the connection that the two of them share. And I was really fortunate in that Angela was very giving in her creative process too. So we were able to just bond really, really quickly, insanely quickly for the kind of work that we were jumping into. And I just really developed a real affection for her and a love for her, and that happened just over the course of shooting the movie. And so of course it showed up in the movie, because always whenever the choice came to do, am I playing a trick on Taylor, or am I manipulating her in any way or whatever, it always felt like the more interesting choice was always going to be, I'm not trying to harm her in any way. I'm ultimately trying to serve her career, but I care for her, and I want her to be this woman that I believe that she can be. And I want to help her discover her ultimate self. And I want to be a part of that experience. Sorry?
I was just going to say, you want her, it's almost like you want the relationship that Scott had with his wife, like where she knows what he's done, but they're still happily married together.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence that he's my mentor. He's not just training me in technique and the techniques of fear. He's also my mentor as a human being, and I see this possibility for myself of having a one for me, and Taylor could be it.
Angela, when you came on board as Taylor, this movie, which like I said at the top of the thing, is it's so uniquely your guys' own world that you've all crafted, from David to your guys' portrayal of these characters. And I think one of the things that resonates with many horror fans when it comes to Leslie is the fact that he exists in the world of Freddy and Michael and Jason and everything. For you, going into it, playing a documentary filmmaker who, you obviously know who these serial killers are, and you're following Leslie. Are you, Angela, a fan of like the Freddys and the Michaels and the Jasons and all that?
I feel like I was sort of well poised to take on this role because of the fact that in real life, I know or knew next to nothing about any of those guys that you mentioned.
Oh,
Um,
well.
I have all the respect in the world for the horror genre. I be a little bit timid about it and never really, um, you know, sort of immersed myself in those films prior to Behind the Mask. So I felt, in a sense, that I really was getting an education in all the ways as a person, as an actor, as a character. I really just kind of came in uh, sort of as a blank slate a little bit, and I think it, I hope and I think that it served the story in a way, because it really was an organic sort of lack of information that I was coming into it with, and a curiosity and a little bit of fear, and yeah. So I really didn't know anything. And for me, as a person and as a character, Leslie was it. He was my first, my
Yeah.
first of these fellas. So I think it worked in that way.
So how was that for you then, playing off of Nathan, to be a, Taylor is, she's ignorant to that world that he is trying to expose her to. You not necessarily having the strongest history with the franchises at all. As an actor, I would imagine then you're feeding purely off of Nathan's energy, as Leslie's energy, as getting excited about these things are happening because they've happened to like Freddie and Michael and everything else. That's an interesting, unique experience for an actress, I imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And the sort of amazing thing about the character that Nathan created is, and I think anyone who's seen the movie feels the same way. He's uh, a likable, sort of quirky, um, energetic, uh, magnetic person. Um, he does not, he's not scary on the surface of it, and he's compelling in a way that makes you want to lean in as opposed to run away. And I think that is so interesting and different. And certainly for me, I think it worked um, really well, because when it became clear that this was a huge, like, moral problem, that we know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And when Taylor has that kind of crisis of faith of like, wait a minute, this is actually murder, and we're a party to this. It really kind of takes you by surprise, and it took me by surprise, because I went along kind of charmed by Nathan Baesel / Leslie Vernon this whole time, and then I'm like, wait a second, this guy is going to kill people, and it's real. And that was like such a fun shift to play, and it really was natural, because and it's a tribute to Nathan all the way, because he just, you know he's He's so sweet and strange.
That is one of my
It just
favorite.
kind of like surprises you when he actually starts the killing of the people.
That is one of my favorite LOL moments of you guys when when Taylor realizes it's actually happening, and when Leslie confronts the crew after they realize it's actually happening, and like shit's just hitting the fan, and they are freaked out. Like your reaction as Taylor is perfect, but Leslie's reaction to the camera guy, like, okay, get out of here, like you like. It's like the commercial with Spider-Man when Spider-Man says like everybody gets one. It's like Leslie's giving them their one. Like you were cool for a while, but hit the rocks because I'm about to mess some stuff up. We have a question. We have a comment here. John Running, not sure if you guys are taking questions. We absolutely are. If you guys have questions for Nathan and Angela, feel free to chat about them in the comments and we'll put them up there. But he's wondering, was there a scene for either one of you guys that was particularly the most challenging to film? Nathan, you want to take it first?
I would say technically challenging was the one that jumps out at me is the scene in the van in front of the high school where we're kind of taking a look at different cliques and trying to piece together our ideal group to stalk.
Mm-hmm.
And we had very little daylight left. It was a daytime scene. And it got really dark really fast there. I mean, it went, it would go from like afternoon to, night.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just had very little daylight left and we had to get this scene shot. And we had very little time because we were coming from another location. We just finished shooting something else. And we raced over to this location and we had what feels like an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours at the most, to knock out this scene that was like 3 pages of dialogue, something like that.
And involved other people, right? There were a ton of background
Yeah,
artists.
yeah.
And like
The whole thing is choreographed. The whole street. It's not just it's the whole fucking town square is choreographed.
You had that candy you were eating. We had to keep replacing your candy.
It was insane. Yeah. So they'd fortunately already kind of set up the choreography, and we just kind of inserted ourselves into it when we were finished with wardrobe and whatnot. But I mean, we had very little time to knock it out, and it was all about just getting it done. And we were fortunate because a lot of the scenes that we'd been shooting, we'd been doing in one take. It's not the way they were edited necessarily, but we were shooting them in one take. So we would get really extensive scenes, 3-page long scenes was, pretty standard for us. And we would execute the whole thing. And we would be able to do that for all the different camera setups. Well, we did this with 2 camera setups, I think. And when we actually got in the van to shoot the thing, we knocked it out in, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes with the 2 setups. And I mean, it's obviously it was edited down, but it was this choreographed, 3-minute long, scene that we worked from beginning to end, It was just unbelievable that we were able to get that much work done of that demanding a skill level, requiring the collaboration of so many different people, and we were just able to get it done, Yeah.
And remember, Nathan, that there was this somewhat technically challenging moment where your sort of decoy survivor girl has to notice you. And we were, keep in mind, inside a van, and the camera was inside the van with us. And so this sweet girl had to like freeze in this one very specific spot that couldn't have a mark on it because we could see everything, and like had to turn and like look over her shoulder and sort of see Nathan, and we were panning back and forth between him and her. And not only that, but acting wise, the audience has to believe that this is his girl. So like it's not a small moment for Leslie either. And like it, yeah, what like you said, Nath, it was like there was a lot going on in those 20 to 30 minutes that we banged out that shot for sure.
You know, one thing that I have said to you in person, Nathan, is the look of Leslie reminds me so much, and your facial expressions when you get excited and you're really just like turning it on, and you, especially the Ahab scene, you remind me a lot. I'm sorry?
Are you going to say Jim Carrey?
I wasn't. No.
Okay, good. No, okay. Who are you going to say?
The name escapes me now. I mean,
no.
All we can think is Jim Carrey now.
No, what I was going to say is, you know, it is along the lines of like the improv comedians. You know, not to. I mean, he's Mad TV, obviously, but the comedians, you know, Saturday Night Live, that are able to, you know, think on it, you know, very quickly. It could turn. Was there any? John is asking this too in the chat room. Was there any improvisation that with Leslie, especially because you're so north-south a lot of the time, like you're super happy when you think everybody is on board for what you're doing, and the second that you get an inkling of they're going to screw it up for you, you know, we see the dark Leslie come out real quick, and then, you know, Taylor makes amends and like calms you down and you're back to happy Leslie. Like, are any of those moments between you two, or, you know, with you in general, was there improvisation going on, or was that all, you know, this is, you know, how we want you to be?
I think it was mostly in the script. I mean, I think it has an improvisatory feel, which I think is to David Stevie's credit. We didn't really have to riff too much because it was already there, you know, and he did a better job riffing than I'd be able to come up with. So, you know, no need to stray too much. But yeah, I mean, in terms of playing moments and being receptive to how other people impact you, and so how you approach, you know, scenes that way, that there was always improvisation in terms of just listening to your partner, and what the information you're getting from them is going to be different every time, because it's going to be informed in different ways every time. And so, you know, being responsive to our partner and playing off of them, I think, yeah, there was a lot of room for that, and it's something that Scott Glosserman, the director, he gave us a lot of room to do, to just really establish that reality, you know, reality of a scene. He, you know, let us build in some of that kind of naturalistic feel of just kind of being in a moment rather than you know, playing a moment that's been, you know, laid out in a script.
Right.
I think also, just to build on what you said, Nath, like there was a large degree of improvisation that I think none of us really understood until we were shooting, between our cameraman Jaron and ourselves, because for 2/3 of the movie, Jaron is representing, you know, like our crew, and we had takes to him that were, you know, that were part of the moment of the character. You know, normally there's that fourth wall, and that wasn't there for most of it. So, and the sweetest thing, Jaron is massively talented, and he jumped right into this project with all of his talent and passion and improvisatory ability, you know, just as a cinematographer, but also the sweetest part, and Nathan, I hope you agree with me or like had your own experience with this, is that you would glance over at him holding the camera and he would be like looking at you like he was in the scene, you know, and you'd kind of like give him a look like, are you getting this? Or like Leslie would give him a look like, you know what I'm talking about, and he would just be like responding with his face, like his wide eyes. Meanwhile, he's like a technical genius and he's shooting the fucking movie, you know, all the while like being in the scene with us. So that was like a source of improvising that, right, I don't think we really knew what it would be until we were there and it was happening.
That's great. I'd forgotten about those moments with Jaron, but it's true.
Jaron's,
you know, he was just as
expressions.
much of a contributing actor. He should have gotten an acting credit because we were playing off him most of the time.
Yeah, you already answered my next question I was going to say, because both of you, speaking of breaking the fourth wall, you both give the camera like these looks throughout the whole movie that, I mean, they're funny. This movie is both, it has some really cool slasher, you know, horror movie moments, obviously, but there are moments in this thing that when you guys are playing to that camera that are, it makes me laugh. Like when Leslie's excited and he's jacked up and like, here we go. Like I got to imagine, you know, being there filming that, you know, as the crew builds the relationship with you two, when you guys are in character, you know, there's several times I would lose it if I was holding the camera and I'm watching you guys, you know, you do this thing. The scene with you, you know, in the library where it's like spry Leslie's just hopping over book stacks to go check out this girl, like stuff like that is you know, it's that a preview of the horror of the situation. Like it is funny to sit there and watch. Did you guys, you know, you're speaking of how good he did, because he did do a good job. Was there moments where you did get him and it was like, shit, we got to redo it because I'm laughing too hard or the camera shaking or anything?
No.
I mean, I don't think he ever broke, but I certainly, there were definitely, I think there were a few moments where like you could see him sort of responding as himself, knowing us as ourselves, like where you're like, oh, wait a minute, like he's laughing at Nathan Baesel doing something funny because he knows Nathan, or like, you know, like Ben said something off camera that he's like kind of like, yeah, I heard that and I'm processing and I'm trying to all do my job at the same time. But I don't think we ever had to redo anything because of Jaron. We really had to redo stuff because of our shenanigans, but
oh yeah, there were so many shenanigans. Oh my god. I remember one night in particular, I wasn't the greatest about memorizing my lines, you know, word for word. But I just could not get my act together, and yeah, I caused a few delays.
You guys have a favorite? Were there any kind of you know, shenanigans break? Did you put the mask on and try to scare the shit out of people when you guys weren't filming or anything crazy?
No, the mask was sacred. When that was on, it was no funny business allowed.
In fact, when the mask was on, like we really didn't like talk to Nathan much at all. I mean, we would sort of see him like lurking around behind the trailer, like walking back and forth in his little bare feet. They're not like weirdly little, don't get me wrong. They're normal sized feet.
No, but, I've got tiny feet.
But you know, like it was so freaking cold that like sometimes you just look at Nathan and his feet like in the mud and the frost, and you'd be like, damn, that is cold. Those little
that boy and his little feet.
Um,
You know, the thing about your mask too that I know you have said to me that they kind of modeled that melted shape off of like an egg. Like when you crack the egg and the egg is like running, or the egg embryo, like that droopiness to your face. But watching it again, it's almost reminds me of like the metaphor of like comedy and tragedy, because you put, when the mask is not off, for the most part you're like this super, happy go lucky dude, like, yep, you're gonna film me kill some people today. You guys ready to do it? I'm ready to do it. Let's go. Like you said, the second Leslie puts that mask on, it is very, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees. Every movement has a purpose. Like, I'm here to destroy, essentially. So that's interesting that you say that as the actor. When you put the mask on, it seems like you went to that place to bring that feeling through the screen, which is pretty cool.
Well, it felt very early on. Well, once we started doing all the stuff with the mask on, I was presented with a choice very early of how am I going to conduct myself? Am I going to be, in between scenes, mask on? Am I going to, try to stay in character, or am I going to, take the mask off and, or am I going to keep the mask on and kind of goof around? Like, what's my state of mind that I want to do here? And it just felt for me that sometimes a little bit of a meditation was kind of better for me, to just have a time out from people and everything, and just kind of get into go to a different place. And so it just served me better to have the mask on and to stay in character and just keep on working.
Christian has a great question here, and it's always, watching this one is always fun to have remembrance of Scott Wilson. And the scene with you guys and Scott is so incredibly iconic that he is your mentor, your Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you will, of how to kill people. But off the set, he's one of those actors that you watch him act and you could tell that he had to have just been like the nicest person to know personally, not just professionally. Do you guys have like a favorite story or lesson, even, from Scott, that you could share?
Yeah, I always get a little squishy about this stuff. Yeah, sorry, go Angela. If you have.
I just, well, while you're thinking, because I know that there's so much, and every time someone mentions his name, there's just like this kind of love glow that I think we all feel right away. And what I was going to say, what jumped to mind actually, is that when Nathan and Scott were skipping stones, like as the sun is setting, it's shortly after we meet Eugene and haul him out of that sensory deprivation tank, and Nathan and Scott, I hadn't seen them shoot that. Like, I didn't know that they were doing that. I guess I was somewhere else because it wasn't.
We just kind of ran out and knocked it out in like.
Yeah, it wasn't
minutes.
scripted, and I think they just kind of caught it. But I always remembered that they kind of were like they were in sync with their steps, and I knew that they had kind of worked that out, but it was so simple and graceful and sweet. And that moment, the first time I saw it was when we saw the movie, when it was all put together, and we were in the theater watching it, and it just like landed so hard for me in such a beautiful way of it was such a simple expression of the history that you guys had, and I knew that it was a moment that you had worked out as actors together, because you have to do that, but the execution of it was so gentle and natural and like born of love and history, that it just was like it was so simple, and yet so it expressed such a complexity and beauty and depth. And that was Scott. I think he like approached the work always that way, of like, how can we really tell this story? How can we go to those places? And he wasn't afraid to like immediately go there and figure them out in the moment, on your feet, just like, hey, let's pick up some rocks and start tossing them in the water. And like, you know, there was always a true collaborative, beautiful thing, that he brought. So that was my Scott Wilson memory that like occurred to me just now.
I think that is a awesome way to kind of sum up what it was like for you guys to work with him, and just kind of the personality and the person that he was. It, you know, that was a big hit. That hit, you know, I'm sure you guys way harder than it hit any of us who didn't know him personally, but that was one that was felt across the, you know, the horror community when we lost Scott. He a hell of an actor, man.
Well, more than that, and he was, but he was a hell of a human being, and that's probably why he was a hell of an actor. He just, you know, threw the door open. I don't think there was anything, you know. He was just a yes, you know. He was an open door. He was a yes, you know, and you just, you don't meet a whole lot of folks like that. And you know, don't get an opportunity to work too often with folks like that. And you know, he taught me a lot.
Absolutely. You know, you guys, Scott Wilson isn't the only horror icon in this film. Besides the two of you, you guys are horror icons in my book. Leslie Vernon forever. But there is a fun cameo by Robert England, and we had a question in the comments. What was that like? Because, you know, he's only in there for, you know, not very long. Leslie does something that it takes Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees and you know, fill in the blank of horror slasher series, multiple films to do almost within, you know, inside of 10 minutes, and that is finish off the guy who psychologically evaluated him. And but what was that like to get to? I mean, Freddy Krueger, you know, Robert England can say he's killed, you know, dozens upon dozens of angsty teenagers over the course of his career. Not too many people get to say they killed Robert England. So what was that like having him on set?
It was awesome. It was a huge boost in confidence of what we all felt like we were doing with the movie. You know, we were all there to make the best movie that we could, and I think we all felt that we were fortunate to be working on the movie because the script was so good. You know, so we just already had a lot kind of going for us. But, you know, key casting decisions like that, you know, Robert Englund for Halloran, and you know, Scott Wilson for Eugene, you know, those were just, it was like, okay, we're gonna get, you know, some wind in our sails, you know, that's all we need. That's all we need is a little bit of wind in our sails, and we got a shot. Mm-hmm. And not only did they bring the wind of their careers and their expertise and their you know, in Robert Englund's case, you know, his legend, you know, we got their professional efforts as well, and both of them are pros. You know, Robert Englund is a fucking pro. He knows what to do. He knows exactly what the beat is. He knows exactly what the moment is, and he knows how to sell it. And he knows, you know, because he's done it so many times in so many films. You know, he knows how to do it. You know, he knows how to you know, the shot where I, you know, stab him with my side. You know, he's like, I'll turn this way, you know, the camera's right here, so I get my shoulder over here, and then you can bury it. We can hide, you know, the blade, so I can get some insertion there, and then I'll bite into the, you know, the capsule, the blood capsule at that point, and then we'll get the drip. So we'll turn, good, clear, yeah. Absolutely. Now I know exactly what to do.
I also think too, and I still, every time I say this, I sort of pinch myself because it seems like a dream, but he has said, and this is somebody who not only has, you know, the career that he has, but he reads hundreds of scripts, you know, people like, hey, I have this film, you know, check it out. And he picked a fucking script. So that right there was like, oh my God, what? Like suddenly there was, it's like Nate said, it's like this legitimacy, this kind of, you know, sense of urgency that this story is different and it needs an audience. It's really being told. And that immediately sort of, I think, you know, gave us almost permission, I guess, to really, you know, to bring it, because he was, and he did, like Nathan said. I mean, he jumped into this, you know, with his teeth bared and was like, you know, just all about it. Not to mention that off camera, I could sit and listen to him forever.
Yeah, for sure.
He is like the best storyteller. He's so charismatic, and so interesting and so smart, that, like, you know, half the time when we weren't shooting and he was on set, everybody was just like huddled around Robert's chair. Like,
He's a raconteur.
like,
He's a raconteur. He's a repository of information about acting. He knows everybody. He's seen everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could sit there for hours. I have.
Yeah,
in many lobbies, I've sat there, drink in hand, and I've refreshed my drink more times than I've participated in a conversation with him.
Yeah, he doing a media event with him, getting the chance to listen to him speak in person. It might as well have just been a one-man Broadway show, because he would do, as you said, his stories. You know, he had like a different voice, a different character, depending on what he was telling the story about. He's really cool. Well, guys, and everybody in the chat, thank you very much for participating. We could talk to these two as is evidence, as we keep getting to have them come back and grace us at Sinister Creature to hear more stories of behind the scenes. We look forward to, you know, I'm still holding out that #2 will eventually happen. We had the comic book, you know, the rumor of Leslie, you know, coming again. You know, the scene of you sitting up on that gurney in the credits haunts me forever, because I want more. I want to know what the hell happens. I got to imagine, you know, everybody in the chat right now is blowing it up that they want it. You know, we all want it. So hopefully, here's hoping that we get it eventually down the line. But until then, I look forward to the next time that we get to do this, because Nathan and Angela, you guys are definitely two of my favorite people to sit here and talk Leslie Vernon and movies in general too. So we thank you very much for coming and taking the time out of your day during this, what has been a hell of a year, to participate with Sinister CyberCon, guys.
Thank you, Jimmy. This has definitely been a nice relief from what COVID situation has been going on. And it's always a pleasure to see Angela right there, that face.
Same.
Thank you, guys. And
I love you, Nathan Baesel. I love you all who watched our movie and who talked to us and who care what we have. It's amazing. And we love Sinister Creature Con, and everybody just be safe. And I can't wait to talk to you all in the near future when it's safe to do so.
All right, guys, we will be right back with more content all day long. Thank you.